This is Evolutionary Radio. This is your host, Trevor Kouritzin. Joining me, as always, is my faithful co-host, Steve Smee.
Yes, good afternoon, guys. We have Dave Palumbo on the show today, special guest.
Dave,
what's up, guys?
welcome to the show.
Thanks.
First thing I want to say is both me and Steve, we listen to Heavy Muscle Radio. We hate the show. So
all right, listen to it then. Man, that's good.
It's good to have you on. What's new with you? What'd you do today? Were you taking care of Logan?
I take care of Logan in the morning. Yeah, my son, 17-month-old son, and I actually fed my snakes some mice and rats that were delivered to my house.
Interesting.
That's my new hobby.
Logan's already 17 months?
He's 17 months. We have a new one on the way already, end of December.
Wow, time sure goes by.
Flies, yeah.
This year's already halfway over.
I know. Can you believe it? I have shoulder surgery in less than 30 days now.
Well, that's going to suck, but then hopefully you'll feel a lot better after.
Yeah, that's the idea. That's the hope that once my the joint has been replaced, I'll be able to use it a little better now than I am now.
Make sure you got a good surgeon.
Yeah, the guy who actually is doing the surgery, his name is Dr. Frankel. He's in Tampa, which is about 2.5 hours from me, and he invented the reverse shoulder replacement. Now they have a normally they cut the head of your humerus off and they put a titanium head on there and they clean out the socket joint and they put a little bit of a little plastic cup in there, and that's the deal. But in some people who don't have rotator cuff tendons that have been torn or just degenerative because they're really old, the shoulder replacements didn't work for them. So this guy he's like a genius. He figured out that if they put the head of the humerus on the joint capsule instead and then put the head of the socket actually on the end of your humerus, a reverse shoulder essentially, that the leverage that it creates is such that you don't need a rotator cuff to lift your arm up, and so that's. I
might need that, Dave, because I got a torn rotator cuff. It's been almost 3 years now, and it's still not healed.
Really?
So
wow.
I don't know what the hell's going on, but it sucks. Every time I try to lift heavy, I can't lift my arm up the next day. So I gotta I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Have you done surgery at all just to fix the rotator cuff? I've
been doing physical therapy.
You might surgery.
Yeah. So, but the doctor's you don't need surgery. He's just you just gotta wait for the scar tissue to go in there. Maybe one day, I'll have to do surgery. I'm not sure yet.
How old are you?
I'm late 30s.
All right, so you're getting to that age where you're gonna start falling apart. Yeah,
I already am. Yeah, that's what I was telling Trevor. I'm once you hit mid 30s, man, shit starts falling apart.
Yeah.
I used to train like a madman in my 20s and lift heavy and shit, and now I just wow, it's just your body can't sustain that. It's amazing.
From after 25, it's all downhill, but you don't really realize it until you hit about 33 or so, and then you realize that you haven't been healing for the last 8 years.
Exactly. Yep.
And then by the time you're 43, you're in pain.
Dave, I turned 25 a week ago.
Oh, you suck. Well, that's the end of it. Your whole life is downhill.
It's all downhill from here. Thanks.
Physically, but mentally, it could be uphill for quite a while. So I think you improve with age until probably around 65 maybe, and then I think you start to decline again mentally. So not only do you decline physically, you decline mentally as well, because that's what I'm experiencing with my dad. My dad's 87, and he's completely has no short-term memory left whatsoever.
Well, that's
and he's physically in pain. So that's I guess if you make it to 87, you should be happy, but it sucks when you lose your memory.
At least that's partial good news for me. I'm halfway done my master's, and I'm hoping to do a PhD after. So hopefully, if my body starts to go, at least I still got my brain until I'm 65.
That's right. You need that. That's what I've been nurturing, because I know that was coming. So I always tell people you got to be well balanced anyway. You can't throw all your eggs in one basket.
So this brings me to my first question for you, Dave. So
sure.
How do you feel now in terms of, health, vibrance, being, Dave Palumbo now, I'm guessing you're around, maybe 200 pounds. You look pretty lean, you look pretty athletic versus Dave Palumbo, the 300-pound bodybuilder. how do you feel on a day-to-day basis? I'm guessing when you were 300 pounds, you probably didn't feel that healthy. I've never been 300 pounds, so I have no idea, but just imagining carrying that much weight every day, like it just seems like it'd be such a burden. So Dave, sorry, we lost you a little bit there. How do you feel now, just health-wise, to where you are now versus when you were the 300-pound bodybuilder?
Yeah, when I was 300 pounds, I didn't, when I first hit it, it was really like I was huffing and puffing and going up steps and stuff like that. But, I was in my 20s, so I was like, I just have to tough my way through it. So it was exhausting, but I wasn't 300, pounds, for 12 months out of the year. I was, 300 pounds for 3 or 4 months, and then I started dieting, and so I didn't really think anything of it. I really didn't have injuries, per se. I felt good, I thought, you feel invulnerable and invincible when you're in that age range. So you don't even think about health really back then. Nowadays, I'm so much more conscious of everything, especially when you see people your age starting to drop dead, left and right, heart attacks and other crazy stuff going on. So I'd say that now I'm more aware of my health, and I do feel really good. I mean, I'm much, I sleep better. I don't snore. I breathe better at a lower weight. I move around better, although, my joints are not as good as they were when they were younger, so I'm a little more achy in that sense. But I feel good, and I feel clear-headed. I think really well. I don't use any stimulants, and yet I'm never, I'm not tired. Even if I get a bad night's sleep at night because my son's up or something like that, I still function well. It's not like I have to, I'm dragging ass. So I believe that being lighter now and eating better, and when I say better, I mean I'm not devouring 600 grams of protein a day. I'm eating 3 small meals a day. I just think it serves my body at 49 years old better than it did, when I was 20 years old. When I was 20 years old, it served me to put muscle on and do what I wanted to do. And you have to just evolve. I think a lot of people are afraid to change. They want to just keep doing the same thing, and they expect to get the same results, but it doesn't happen. Your body changes, and you have to. I notice I could train 3 days a week now and maintain muscle mass easy. Mm-hmm. Whereas when I was younger, I probably would have lost muscle if I only trained 3 days a week. So, your body changes as you get older. Muscle maturity is there. The body is not going to be letting go. As a matter of fact, it's hard for me to lose muscle. I have to kind of starve myself to do that. So, I think that the body just evolves, and you have to evolve your mindset to go along with it, or you're doomed, to have either poor health or short life or both,
Do you miss being 300 pounds at all? Like, do you miss being that big and that strong? Basically going to a mall and everyone's like, whoa, who's this guy? And they want to feel your biceps and things like that.
I don't. I kind of got that. I got over it. It was good while it lasted. But I know that if I was like that, all I would think about is going to the gym and training. I would never be able to be doing the creative endeavors that I'm doing with Species Nutrition and RxMuscle.com. And all my other little, I guess you could say hobbies, plus my kid and the new one that's coming, I wouldn't be able to devote the time I want to it. So now I think I'm good where I am now. Thankfully for me, because I'm kind of like a well-known person in our industry, I get recognized probably just as much, maybe more now than I did when I was bodybuilding, because people just, watch the content, and with social media and everything like that, they know who I am. So it's we can go anywhere, my wife and I, and there's always someone comes up to me in the parking lot and says, oh, you're Dave Palumbo, right? I say, yeah. So I guess maybe my ego is satisfied in that sense, so I don't have to be flexing my 25-inch arm, for them to feel. No, I think it's important that you change your mindset. You have a goal, you accomplish it, then you move on to the next goal. You can't keep living in the past. And we see this with a lot of people who live in the past, and they just can't get a grip on what they want to do in the future, and they just kind of, stagnate. You see it all the time.
Well, you see a lot of older bodybuilders who they get blood work done. It's horrible. Their doctor's saying you really need to come off, you're a ticking time bomb, and they're scared to because their identity's wrapped in their muscles, and eventually they pass away, and it's really sad, but. We've seen that happen a lot of times, and a lot of times they had all the telltale signs. They just were too stubborn to accept it and move on and try a new goal. And I know something similar actually happened to me. I was bodybuilding at the national level. When I was 22, I found I had cancer. So I had to get off everything, obviously have the cancer surgery. And luckily it was just a muscular tumor, so it wasn't all that serious. But, you know, a year after that surgery, when I lost all that muscle and everything, I went through a major identity crisis. Like, it was really, really hard mentally, you know, and everyone kind of like, they don't even know that they're doing it, but like they come and talk to you, they're like, whoa, what happened? Like, you lost so much weight, you know?
Exactly. I just had cancer, you idiots, you know?
Yeah, but they say it with the best intentions, you know, like they're concerned, but they don't realize that they're almost like slapping you in the face. And they're asking, you know, like, are you still going to work out? Like, are you still working out? And they don't really know the whole story and everything. And it was tough. It was really tough.
Yeah, well, you were young too. That's why. And you know, when I have guys come up to me, they're like, "Oh, you're Dave Palumbo, yeah. Do you work out anymore?" I'm like, "No." I don't care. I don't give a shit what people think about me. That, you know, but I'm older and I can. I'm much more mature about it. But I can understand if you're like 25 years old and someone says, "Hey, what happened to you, man? You look terrible." You know, you look like you lost a ton of muscle, and you're like thinking, "Oh my God, it's bad enough I just have to deal with the fact I have cancer, and I have to have people think I'm like skinny." You know. So I could understand how that could really traumatize someone mentally, but it shouldn't really affect someone who's in their 50s, you know, when, you know, to worry about people thinking. No one gives a crap if a 50-year-old guy is small or big. You know, no one evaluates you when you're that age. That's why I don't know what these guys are so caught up in this, you know. Why are you taking 100 milligrams of Anadrol a day? You know, you're not doing the Olympia. You're not even going to get on stage again. You're just doing it because you want to look big at the beach. It's ridiculous, you know.
Social media with that generation, so bad. You can't even go on Facebook and post a picture without people attacking you or something. I think that's why. You know, so
you gotta have thick skin. I don't let anything bother me. I'm the most hated and the most loved person on YouTube, and that doesn't faze me. People could say whatever they want. I don't even delete the comments on the videos that we do on rxmuscle.com because I don't care. I think they're funny.
Honestly,
no, I mean, yeah,
some of the comments I get on my YouTube videos are hilarious. Like, I've had people say I have no fashion sense. I've had people make fun of the interior design of the office I'm doing the recordings in, saying that, you know, my couch doesn't match my coffee table, and like some of like the weirdest comments. I actually had someone make fun of my dog. So like, just like I'm like, do these people really have nothing better to do than make fun of my dog, like on some YouTube video that has nothing to do with pets? Like, I don't know.
They don't. But speaking of social media and all this, Dave, I'm curious to hear your opinion. I know I saw you did a interview with Lee Priest and you asked him about this. What do you think now with the Rich Piana thing? Because since then you did that video, there was a second video that has emerged, second audio, where he went around. So, I mean, has your opinion kind of changed after hearing a second one?
I haven't heard it yet. What was this? What did he say on the second one?
It was pretty much. It was some similar with his ex-wife. His ex-wife basically had a recording that she put out where he was doing something similar, N-word this, N-word that.
Was it the same girl as the last one? As the first one?
I'm not 100% sure, but I would think it was because it's the same woman. She keeps putting out stuff attacking him, trying to get.
I wonder why. Because he said it was 10 years ago. I wonder why all of a sudden now she's doing this. Seems unusual.
I don't know. But do you think? I mean, I don't know if you've met Rich Piana, you've talked to him in person and stuff.
Oh,
but do you think? Oh, okay. Do you think he's really a racist, or do you think maybe he's just a little insecure, or what do you think is the reasoning behind?
I was brought up in a household where that word, the N-word, was never used. Okay, my parents were very liberal. My dad, you know, taught African American people in school. Most of his classes were that. He got along very well with them, and he always spoke very well of them. So I don't have that in my vocabulary. So when I get pissed off, I'll never use that word because it's never been ingrained into my psyche. I think that Rich grew up using that word for whatever, for good or for bad. You know, I don't know why. Maybe his father and his parents used the word, and he picked it up. And at some point, and I think at some point he probably stopped using the word. But when he gets mad, obviously he loses control, and that's in his vocabulary, you know, and it came out. Unfortunately for him, it got caught on tape like a dummy. And do I think he's a racist? I don't know. He might be. You know, I don't. You know, I don't. It's a very hateful word. he was using it obviously to hurt her. Really, he wasn't hurting her. He was really hurting the person who supposedly she was with. But I don't know. It's the court of public opinion that needs to either forgive him or don't forgive him. I'm not God, so I don't judge people. I don't think that Rich is a bad guy. I think that he might have a skewed view of the world. I know I had a lot of black guys contact me after that the Lee Priest thing went up, because Lee took kind of like a very like nonchalant look. Words don't have any meaning. It's just what people put behind them and whatever. But I also had a lot of black people explain to me, and send me videos about Ice Cube talking to Bill Maher on TV. That it's a hurtful word for them, and it was used for so long in oppressing the black people of this country, during slavery and during the civil rights movement, and it's still being used to this day, that they don't believe that white people they don't own the word anymore. They say we own the word. So if we want to call each other that's fine, but you guys can't. And I understand that. You know what? I mean, think about it. I'm half Jewish, so I can understand. I know why Jewish people get pissed off when people come out and say the Holocaust didn't exist, because I can sympathize with that. I'm not black, but I can understand. Look, black people were enslaved in this country and made to work for free, and we know the whole story. So that's a sore topic for them, and to see a guy like Rich Piana, who's supposed to be an idol. He's not some jerk off in the industry. He's an idol that people look up to. He's probably has the most viewed, I guess you could say, guy on YouTube in the bodybuilding industry. And here he is using this hurtful word, that half the bodybuilders are black, and probably the greatest bodybuilders of all time were. So, Lee Haney, I had contacted him for a statement. He gave me a statement. He didn't want to come on my show, but he didn't want to. He said, I don't give any credence, or I don't give any energy to people who don't fly. In other words, for people who don't get it. I'm not gonna raise this guy up by talking about him because he doesn't deserve it. So, that's one take, and then the other take is the guys that say, well, fuck him. We're not ever supporting this guy, and we're gonna tell everyone to not support this guy. And he's gonna have to deal with the ramifications. Look what Mel Gibson. He was on top of the Hollywood world, and where is he now? When was the last movie you saw him in? Like you saw him in that Stallone movie. What was it called?
Yeah, he kind of died out, and then he came back, but he's been very
he's still
apologetic on TV and stuff. I think a lot of people forgave him. But, I mean, my girlfriend is half Jewish, too, and she gets really pissed off when she hears stuff. So I totally see where you're coming from on that. Do you think that Rich should put out another apology video, maybe a little longer? Because his apology video was only like 5 minutes. I was like, maybe, kind of put another one out maybe, or should he just kind of like sweep it under the rug and just hope it goes away? I'm not really sure what the industry is feeling right now. I'm not sure how his business is going to be affected by it too.
Yeah, I don't think his business will be affected that much, at least from the perspective of the people who buy his nutritional products or anything like that, because who knows? His following is mostly white people. Let's face it.
Yeah. I wonder if it will actually help him. Actually,
yeah, I don't know about that, but although I'm sure with some of the racists it will. But although someone has told me that his following on YouTube, his subscriber list has gone down 400,000 people. Now I don't know if that's true or not. They were telling me it was over 1 million, and now it's like down to 900,000. So if that's the case, then that's a pretty big amount of people that just said, hey, we're not following this guy anymore. So
okay.
It's it's definitely going to hurt him. Whether it knocks him out or not remains to be seen. I guess we'll have to see how it goes. I've been holding a lot of like debate shows and having people give their opinion on it because I think it's important to talk about it. You can't sweep something like that under the rug because it's out there. And I'm sure if he did one tape, like you said, now there's a second one, there's probably a third, fourth, fifth one as well. So obviously this girl has got it out for him, but you know what? He said the word, she didn't. I would have liked to have heard what she was saying, because she could have been egging him on. I don't know. We only heard Rich's side. They clipped the tape so that you only hear Rich, and they kind of repeat the tape over and over. So, it's a tough decision. Like I said, I'm glad I don't judge people. So, it's not for me to judge, but it's interesting to hear people's opinions. And if you ask 10 people, you'll get 10 different opinions on this.
Yeah. It's a sad situation, at the end of the day. So Dave, we've got some listener questions for you. You're well known as an advocate of the keto diet. You always talk about the importance of essential fatty acids, things like that. Would you ever advocate, the high carb, high protein, low fat, almost like Chris Aceto diet for someone? Or do you always think, higher fat is the way to go?
No, yeah. First of all, I'd be an idiot if I said that one diet works for everyone, because we know that's impossible. Okay.
Yeah. I'm talking just general, like 95%.
Yeah, my diet for 97% of the population works amazing. And I believe it to be the most valid scientific diet because of the fact that we need protein, for bodybuilding purposes to build and repair muscle. We need essential fats and good fats, to not only fuel the body, but create all the hormones and repair all the cell membranes of all the muscles that get, broken down in the gym. So we need fat and protein. It's a scientific, imperative. The good thing about fats, though, is they can be stored, so you don't really need to eat them every single day. But I like the idea of a ketogenic diet because of the fact that number one reason people fail on their diet is because they cheat. And why do they cheat on their diet? Because they're hungry, irritable, and miserable. Okay. And why is that? Because blood sugar levels are all over the place. When blood sugar is up and down and up and down and up and down, that's when you get mood swings and you get irritable. When you're on a ketogenic diet, because the brain is not using glucose, which is what affects blood sugar, your blood sugar is stable all day. So you feel good. You don't feel hungry. You don't get cravings. You don't feel irritable. And that's going to make the majority of the people stick to the diet. They're not, when you're talking about the elite 10 bodybuilders in the world, who have ridiculous metabolisms and just don't adhere to any of the rules because they're genetic freaks, now you can start playing around with different diet, strategies. I work with Akeem Williams. I worked with him for his whole career, and his body loves fats and protein in the off season, and it loves him in pre-contest too. But he just doesn't lose weight on it. He gets to a certain point, and he won't lose anymore. It makes him too anabolic, and I have to actually take the fats out, and I have to, I raise his carbohydrate content up a little bit, but calorically he's much lower because fats have a lot of calories per gram. So, everyone's different, and you can't just use the same approach because you think, well, this works for this person and it works for this 100 people. It's going to work for the next person. You have to be, as a coach, you have to be able to assess what's going on. And if the person's not losing weight or looking better, and you're changing every variable and nothing's going on, then obviously the diet is not working for them. And so those people, you have to do a little trial and error experimentation. And I've seen in a very small population of the people that they do better, not necessarily on high carbs, but on moderate carbs and lower fats. And I have to identify those people. And once I do, then I stick. I don't push my thinking just because I think that's a great diet on them, because if it doesn't work, then I'm going to fail as a coach, right? So, but I think for the majority of the population, and for almost 99.9% of the women, the ketogenic diet works amazing.
So this is a question I wanted to ask you for a while, Dave. So the true keto diet, is very, very high fat, moderate protein, extremely low carbs. It's about 70% fat, 25% protein, maybe 5% carbs. Your version of the keto diet, it's higher protein, high fat, very low carbs. So because you're taking in so much protein, wouldn't some of that protein convert to glucose through glucose aminogenesis? And then and then you would basically run into the same blood sugar issues because, some of that protein would convert to glucose?
Well, let's examine your question for a second. Why would this protein you're eating, the high protein, let's say you're eating 1.5 grams per pound that you weigh, why would some of that protein convert to carbs? What would be the reason that your liver would turn those amino acids into carbohydrates?
Basically, your body doesn't need all the amino acids.
Well, why would it turn it into carbs? Why wouldn't it just metabolize them or store them as fat?
For an energy source? I mean, glucose is the preferred...
Right. You said it. An energy source. Your body would only convert protein into carbs if it needs a fuel source. That's why it's important that you eat enough fat in the meals, because the fat acts as the fuel source. As long as the fat is present to act as the fuel source, your body doesn't need the carbs, because your brain, don't forget, is using fat as a fuel source. It's using ketones. Okay? So your brain is fine, okay? Your general just walking around every day burns fat. The only thing that uses carbohydrates is high-intensity activity, okay? The only high-intensity activity you should be doing is weight training. And weight training for an hour and a half probably burns about 40, 45 grams of carbs, which you'll be getting indirectly from the food you're eating anyway. So there's no reason for your body to convert protein into carbohydrates, assuming you're taking in enough fat as a fuel source. And that's
so
where people make a mistake. Now, if you let me just preface that.
Yeah,
now, if you ate 100 grams of protein a meal, I'm sure some of that would convert to carbs because that's an excessive amount. But the reason why my diet works for bodybuilders and people who train is because when you train and break down muscle tissue, you have an increased need for protein. Taking in 20% of your daily intake from protein, okay, is going to be grossly under what your body requires, and you're going to lose muscle, okay, or you won't recover from your workouts. It's too low. My ketogenic diet is a performance diet, I call it. I basically took the premise of the Atkins diet, which is basically what Dr. Atkins said was just don't eat carbs, you'll lose weight. You can do whatever else you want. And most people eat a ton of fat and some protein, obviously. And they're usually poor quality sources of protein. They were eating like bacon and stuff like that.
Pork rinds.
And it worked, but they didn't look good, these people, when they lost weight. They just lost body fat because there was no insulin present and they were in ketosis. I took that and I changed it around. I said, look, I want people to be able to recover from their workouts. I want them to be able to, feel good in the gym. They don't need this much fat, in their diet. Okay. And I figured out what the bare minimum was, which was about 0.5 gram of fat per pound that you weigh, or in that range. And that's how I created my diet, and it works great. And I've time tested it thousands and thousands of times with a lot of people. So I've been using it for 20 something years. And, just recently, the ketogenic approach has become so in vogue. It's like stylish. So I have a lot of people contacting me, hiring me to do their diet because they know that I'm the ketogenic king, so to speak, and they know that that's the cool diet to be on. So I have a lot more business than I've always had in the past, at least, because of that. But the key to remember is, okay, protein just won't convert to glucose from nowhere. Now, if you adjust to eat protein, okay, in other words, let's say you have a whey isolate shake, nothing else. You have chicken, nothing else. You have fish, nothing else for your meals. Your body doesn't have a fuel source. Yeah, it's going to convert half that protein into carbs, probably, but not in the presence of the right fats in the diet.
So the fats, though, that you want people to take with the proteins would be what? Peanut butter, almonds, stuff like that?
Well, I break fats into 3 categories. Saturated fats, which are animal sources of fat, and you need some of that, but you don't need a ton of it. Then the most prolific amount of fat that you want to get is from what we call monounsaturated fats. That's like your olive oil, macadamia nut oil, avocados. So most of your fat should come from that. And then a slightly smaller amount should come from what we call the essential fatty acids or polyunsaturated fats. That's your omega-3s and 6s, fish oil, evening primrose oil, stuff like that. Because those you need in your body. You can't synthesize them. You must take them in. It doesn't. You can't say, well, you don't really need them. No, you do really need them. It's impossible to make these fats. Mm-hmm. You have to consume them in the diet. And if you don't, you'll be in what we call a fat-deprived state. So even if you're low calories, your body will hoard fat in areas like in women, it'll hoard it in their butt and their glutes and thighs. Men, it'll hoard it around their lower back. And you see these people, you see these women on stage, they're like shredded upper body and they have like fat legs because they're just not eating a right amount of essential fats. And the body doesn't care. It'll burn fat everywhere else, but it won't let it go in these trouble areas. So that's an important concept to understand. It's not. This is not an and or. You must consume these essential fatty acids. So I tell people, look. To make life easy, I produced a product called Omega-Lyze from Species Nutrition, my supplement company. You take 3 pills twice a day, and you don't have to worry about your essential fats. So even if you took in no other fats, which I'm not advising you do, but at least you would be getting the essential fatty acids. That's the bare minimum. Okay. So I designed my diet around trying to get little bits and put all these fats into the diet in some way. Whether I have guys eat like a piece of chicken with an avocado, or I have a protein whey isolate shake with all natural peanut butter, or I do whole eggs in the morning. I vary it around like that, or salmon, at night, with a salad, and olive oil on. And I vary the meals up pretty much, trying to get multiple sources of protein, multiple sources of fat.
So when you say lipolyze 3 pills 2 times a day, is that 6 grams total of essential fatty acids?
That's we're talking about omega-lyze. Omega-lyze is the essential fatty acid, and it's 3 pills twice a day, and it's going to give you 3,000 milligrams of fish oil. It's going to give you 2,600 milligrams of evening primrose oil, which contains the omega-6 fat GLA, gamma-linolenic acid. And it also actually has an omega-7 fat known as palmitoleic acid, which a lot of people don't realize is super good for you. It's not essential, but it's really good because it makes you more sensitive to insulin. So it makes you, it will combat insulin resistance. It also reduces total body inflammation, C-reactive protein levels, which is important, because if your body has an excessive amount of inflammation in it, you're more prone to heart disease, cancer, and you're just not going to recover from your workouts that well. So it's a really all-purpose essential fatty acid supplement, and it comes from the right sources of fats. A lot of people don't realize humans can't utilize flaxseed oil for omega-3 fats. We don't convert the omega-3 parent compound into active form. So we have to use animal sources of omega-3 fats like fish oil, krill oil. There's other sources. You can get omega-3s in eggs. There's omega-3 eggs on the market now they sell. Grass-fed beef would give you omega-3 fats, obviously wild-caught salmon. So, it's important that humans access their omega-3, supplements from animal sources.
Dave, have you ever heard of seal oil?
I have not. I don't know what the composition of seal oil is. It sounds like it would be probably some saturated fats in there, but they eat other fish, so there probably is some omega-3 fats in there. I don't know if I'd be that comfortable eating a seal, but I'm sure some people do it.
We actually had a doctor on about 2 weeks ago, and he said seal oil is the best omega-3 oil to supplement with because seals are mammals, and we're also mammals, so we absorb the fat much better. And he said that there's, in fish oil, there's EPA and DHA. But in seal oil, there's another omega-3 essential fatty acid called DPA, which is only found in mammal sources of omega-3. So I thought that was really interesting.
It's interesting, and I'll tell you something. It's an interesting story, but I'm going to tell you why people won't want to use it. Because the newest protein source that a lot of people are pushing out there is cricket protein. I don't know if you've
I've heard that.
And someone, the guy who's the head cricket protein guy in the world approached me and wanted me to make a supplement with him. I said, look, it's a brilliant idea, and I think it's a great. First of all, it didn't taste that good, but I'm sure. I said, look, I'm sure you guys can flavor this okay, and I know it's way cheaper than whey protein isolate, but I have a feeling. I know the people out there, they're not going to eat cricket protein. Okay, no one's eating crickets. My wife, Amanda, she was cringing when she heard that. Even if it's healthy, they're not going to eat crickets. That's just, people don't eat insects. And you know what? People don't like to eat cute little seals either. And so while the seal oil might be just better than anything else out there, no one's eating seals. It's just politically incorrect,
Dave, I'm doing my master's in sports nutrition, and we actually had a TED Talk on insect protein. And one person who, is a big advocate on insect protein, they came and they gave a talk saying, this is going to solve, world hunger issues and everything. And they gave out samples, and it didn't taste bad, but it had a very crunchy texture to it. It was almost like you blend up your oatmeal and then you add a scoop of whey to it, and you kind of have to drink and chew at the same time. It was like that. It had the taste was not bad, but it had a very weird texture to it. So I could see what you were saying. I don't think the average person would enjoy it.
Even if it tasted amazing, even if it was better than whey protein, I don't think that people can get comfortable eating cricket protein. I just don't. People don't like the idea of insects to begin with, and eating them is just not something that comes naturally for us. If you're a reptile, eating a cockroach is completely acceptable, but matter of fact, there's people that breed cockroaches just to feed certain reptiles that enjoy them. But humans aren't going to be doing that anytime soon, believe me.
Well, also, so Dave, I got one more thing to let you go, Steve. What's also interesting, Dave, is that they're actually using cricket proteins to make things like tofu and to make things like hot dogs and things like that. They're using that as the filler instead of soy. So maybe a cricket protein hot dog, that doesn't really look like crickets. Maybe people would eat that, or tofu. I don't know.
Would it be on the ingredient list that it's cricket protein?
They'd probably have to label it as something else. They'd probably have to say like purified.
Whatever the Latin name of the thing
Yeah,
is,
or
right?
something like that. Or they'd have to use like a cuter bug name, maybe like bumblebee
See, the way I
protein
see
or
it,
something.
the way I see it is that hot dog eaters probably don't care what they're eating, but it might be too healthy for hot dog eaters, and they don't want anything too healthy in their hot dogs. So, it might
Steve,
not
I'll let
work.
you go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. On this, you mentioned about the blood sugar fluctuations, Dave. I'm curious if someone was to hop on the diet you're advocating, would they kind of experience low blood sugar the first few days and then it would kind of balance out, you think?
Exactly. Yeah.
So they would basically be craving sugar, how long, you think, a few days or?
Yeah, they may not crave sugar, but what'll happen is their brain is going to get like goofy, because what's going to happen is you're not going to eat carbs for 3 days. In the first 3 days, your brain is still trying to look for blood sugar to sustain itself, and because there is none, your brain gets like goofy. It can't really think that well, and so. But by the 4th day, it's like someone flipped the light switch on, because your body switches all of a sudden after 3 days into ketosis, and now your brain is using fats for fuel, and all of a sudden it's like someone completely just woke you up from a slumber, and now you feel completely alert. So it's a good feeling.
So you're not eating any fruit. You're not eating any fruit on your diet. So fruits and any type. Okay. What's interesting? I did a water fast myself for 5 days, and that's what happened. The first 2.5 days. I was going nuts, and then by the 3rd day, it's like I wasn't hungry anymore. I wasn't craving sugar anymore. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, and I was pissing out ketones. I was actually testing my urine. Granted, I could have been dehydrated or whatever, but still, I was pissing out.
I always tell people, they're always like, "How do you know if you're in ketosis?" Because I always tell them those keto sticks that you check with are really inaccurate. Yeah. And I said, how do you know if you're not eating carbs? You're in ketosis. That's how you know. If you don't eat direct, starchy sources of carbs, you're in ketosis. I can promise you that.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds really good. So if guys were just to Google Dave Palumbo diet, they could pretty much bring up something, right? And if they want to contact you,
yeah, they can contact me at huge285@AOL.com or through my DavePalumbo.com website or through RX Muscle. There's a million ways to contact me. What's interesting about the ketogenic diet, as you were saying, is that the brain takes 72 hours to get into ketosis. Basically, the brain is addicted to sugar. It loves sugar, and the more you give it, the more it wants. And when you take it away, and it forgets about the sugar, and you get detoxed, which is ironically the same amount of time it takes to get off opiate painkillers. If you're addicted to opiate painkillers, it takes 72 hours to get rid of that physical withdrawal, and then you're off them. It's pretty ironic that the brain requires 3 days to get off sugar. So it's kind of a serious type of situation when the brain is addicted to sugar, and breaking that addiction is tough, just like it's hard to break an opiate addiction. People who love sugar don't want to stop and give up their sugar. They don't realize that once they give it up and they get off of it, they're not going to crave it anymore. And I think that's something that people have to experience. I can talk about it and I can tell them this is going to happen, but until they actually do it and feel it, they'll never really understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I was thinking so clearly, like after 3, 4, 5 days on my water fast. It was really amazing. I haven't thought that clearly in years. So it just proves like I was basically, every time I'd crave sugar, I go to the kitchen and grab some piece of fruit or grab something sugary to eat. And, I was able to, kind of shake that off, and I haven't craved sugar since. It just feels amazing. So I think it's awesome for sure.
Well, also you got to remember, a lot of people ask me, Dave, your diet sounds great, but what if I just have like one bowl of oatmeal in the morning? And I said, well, what if you just give a heroin addict one shot of heroin a day? Are they still addicted to heroin? Of course they are. So you're not going to go into ketosis eating one bowl of oatmeal, even if it's really small. So you got to get rid of the starchy carbs. It's very important.
So permanently, like no cheat meals? Like you haven't had a slice of pizza in 20 years?
No. You definitely got to do a cheat meal. The one drawback of a ketogenic diet is that your insulin levels are low all the time, which is great for fat loss, but it negatively affects your thyroid gland. What happens is thyroid gland releases a hormone known as T4, or thyroxine. That converts to active form called T3. That T4 to T3 conversion is dependent on insulin. So if insulin levels are too low for long periods of time, the T4 to T3 conversion will slow down, which will slow your metabolism down essentially. But if once a week you have a cheat meal, not the whole day, one meal with high carbs in it, that will spike insulin levels and will keep the T4 to T3 conversion going at a normal rate. So we kind of throw a cheat meal in once a week, not only for just something to look forward to, but also something that's going to keep the metabolism working well. And that also helps people mentally get over the fact that they're dieting, because they're like, oh, at least once a week I get to eat something that I enjoy.
Right. So what's an example of a cheat meal that you like to have once a week?
All you can eat sushi. I go eat a ton of rolls, or I'll go to an Italian restaurant, have pasta and bread and all kinds of other crazy stuff there. Or maybe McDonald's, burger and fries and apple pies or something like that. I've changed up my cheat meal throughout the years. Nowadays a lot of people think I follow a ketogenic diet. I don't follow a ketogenic diet during the day. I don't eat a lot of carbs, but I do eat carbs because I have a very fast metabolism, so I can eat whatever I want. I'm one of those genetic freaks that can respond to any diet. But I eat mostly high protein, moderate fat, and then I eat some carbs. I just don't eat a lot, because I don't need a lot. But I could eat whatever I want. I'm not a junk food addict. I don't eat, for me, dessert is like having like watermelon, or like grapes or cherries or something like that. So, or melon. I'm not an ice cream or donut type of person. I don't eat cakes and stuff like that. But it's not because I can't. I probably look better when I do eat those things. As a matter of fact, I was in Italy last week, and they came up with this homemade dessert. I mean, I had to eat it. It was homemade ice cream and homemade tiramisu, and I didn't eat a lot of it, but I ate it probably, at least a portion size of it. The next morning when I woke up, I actually looked better because, I was like loaded, veins everywhere, abs were sharp. But, once again, I don't eat it just because, number one, I don't really crave it. And number two, I just don't feel good. It screws up my whole way my body works. It's like throwing low test gas into a Ferrari, the Ferrari doesn't respond and perform that well.
And one more question. I know Trevor wants to jump in. We had Boston Lloyd on before, and I asked him about intermittent fasting, and he is not a fan of that at all. What's your stance on intermittent fasting? Do you think that's a bad idea? Do you think it has some merit?
Intermittent fasting is great for health and longevity purposes. I try to not eat 12 hours out of the day. I only eat 12 hours, and my window of eating every day is usually around 12 hours. Although I do a fiber supplement before bed, so I'm probably screwing that up a little bit. So usually it's like 11 to 11. I don't eat any food or anything like that. I'll drink water or stuff like that. But I think for bodybuilding purposes, it's probably not a good idea because you go that long without eating, you're definitely becoming catabolic. When I was bodybuilding, I don't think 4 hours went by 24 hours a day that I didn't eat something. I would wake up in the middle of the night and have shakes. So, if you're trying to maximize muscle gains, probably not a good idea to do intermittent fasting. If you're trying for health and longevity, type of thing, I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
So I got two questions for you on the keto diet, and then I'm going to segue the show into a different topic. So the first question is, on the cheat meals for the keto diet, are you trying to keep fat and protein low and make the meal really high carb and kind of have it like a high carb refeed, or is it kind of just eat whatever you want, don't overthink it?
No, I had a friend, Mr. G, who's crazy. He would, for his cheat meal, he would go to every like Dunkin' Donuts, Baskin Robbins. He would go to the supermarket, buy like donuts and potato chips, and he would line them up on his like dining room table and just eat all junk food. That's not a cheat meal. A cheat meal, the term meal implies that there's protein and fat in the meal. So I try to tell people, try to eat 40, 50 grams of protein with whatever carbs you're going to eat, because invariably if you eat protein with the carbs, you're not going to eat as many carbs. Okay, we don't want to create dysfunctional eating. This is not like just like a binge. It's a meal. It just has high carbs in it. And if people go too crazy with that, I usually have to design the meal for them, or at least put limitations on them. Most people can limit themselves. You know what, Dave? I wanted to go out to dinner with my wife. I have an appetizer, salad. I have my main course, and I have a dessert, and that's fine.
Okay. So second question: let's say a competitor is using your keto diet, and at 6 weeks out they're ready. Would you at that point give them 2 cheat meals per week, or would you start reintroducing carbs into the diet?
I usually reintroduce carbs. I'll usually give them maybe 35 grams of carbs on top of the protein and fat at maybe 3 to 6 meals a day. It depends on how fast their metabolism and how good they look. I've had bikini girls, that I work with who are in shape 2 weeks out, and every second day I'm adding like 100 grams of carbs to their daily, intake, which is a lot for them. They would never lose weight on that, but once they're in shape, you can do that. So it depends, but that's where coaching comes in. I teach a course called The Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru every, maybe 5 times a year now. And it's a 10-hour seminar where I teach people how to, everything about protein, fat, carbs, nutrition, supplementation, performance-enhancing drugs, how to design diets, off-season, pre-contest for men and women. I do this, to educate people so they know the science of what they're doing out there, because just so many people don't get it. They just are following like templates that someone else gave them, and they're trying to apply it to all their clients the same. Part of coaching is knowledge. Part of coaching is experience. I can give you the knowledge, but the experience comes from just being a coach. I can't give you 20 years of experience in one day. You got to go out there and actually do it. The reason why I'm so good at what I do is because this is what all I've been doing for 25 years. I mean, writing diets for people and analyzing, people, how they look and how to, different, getting different anomalies that people that don't respond to certain diets and how to overcome those obstacles. And if someone's cramping, what's wrong, how to ask the right questions is very important as a coach, because I have, clients who don't lose weight. And if I don't ask the right questions, I'll never get the answer that I want. If I say, hey, you're cheating, they're going to say no. If I say, are you weighing your food, and they say no, then I know they're overeating portion size. If they say they're doing everything exactly as I tell them to do, and I make them do a food journal for me, everything they put in their mouth over the course of the day, and then I find out they're using salad dressing on the salads that have carbs in them and fat in them, and I'm like, what are you doing? Who told you to do this? Well, I didn't know. If you don't ask the right questions, you'll never figure it out, and then you don't know why the diet's not working. So you got to be almost like a private investigator.
It's like that age-old saying: the right answer to the wrong question doesn't help you much.
Exactly.
I'm gonna come to one of your secrets to becoming a diet guru seminar eventually. It's just hard to get to. I'm over here in Canada, so I mean it's like 3 layovers.
You guys have airplanes over there?
Yeah, but it's like very expensive, and it's like a full day of travel. But I'll do it. I promise. You'll see my name on the list eventually. So another question I got for you, Dave, and I hope I phrase this the right way, is, whenever someone asks you a question on, Ask Dave or any of your YouTube shows or the podcast about SARMs, you kind of just say you don't believe in them. But as far as I know, have you ever even tried SARMs? Like, have you ever actually tried Carterin or Osterin or anything like that?
No, I haven't. I will say I've tried them. Although I have clients that have tried them. I don't say that they don't work. I say that compared to anabolic steroids, they're weak.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you take Anavar, which is the weakest anabolic steroids, and compare it to the most powerful SARMs, Anavar is way stronger and will give you better results. So for me, I'm thinking, well, if you're going to use these, and they're not really legal anyway, and why not just use regular anabolic steroids if you want to get results? You know what I mean? If you're a natural competitor, I completely respect that. You're not going to use drugs. You want to go use only supplements and food. So be it. I have a lot of clients that are natural athletes. But if a natural guy goes to me and says, I want to take SARMs, I'm going to be like, well, why not just take steroids then? And they're like, oh, I thought there was a difference. No, there's no difference really. Now if you're a woman, who doesn't want side effects from anabolic steroids, it might be okay to use SARMs. My problem is that SARMs haven't really been quantified yet as to how they work, what the right dosages are necessarily, and what the long-term side effects are. We know what this long-term and the short-term side effects from steroids are. They're very well known. They've been well documented over the last 35, 40 years. So to me, it's a crapshoot. Not to mention that where are you getting the SARMs? They're coming from some kind of a gray market, peptide site that's selling it, or, supplement company. No one knows what the purity of these things are. They don't know what the right dosages are. Too many unknown variables for me to be comfortable. At that point, if you're going to use that, you might as well use the real thing.
That is a big problem when it comes to SARMs, peptides, is that, for every one good source, there's 20 terrible sources, and
who knows what contaminants are in there? We don't know.
Like I've had a lot of clients, use peptides and they get weird rashes and like weird bumps on their skin. And I'm like, I have no idea what's in that vial, but there's something in there that your body is not responding well to. Like, I would stop taking it. Same with HGH, right? Half the HGH on the market is actually HCG.
Yeah, or nothing. Because a lot of times they're afraid these companies, these Chinese companies are now smart. They don't want to put HCG because they know people just check it with a pregnancy test. So they don't put anything in there. If you don't put anything there, then you can't detect anything, basically.
So while we're on that, Dave, I want to pick your brain on HGH while we're on the subject. What do you think all this, so many different opinions on the best time to actually take HGH? I'm assuming you have experience with it, obviously, over the years, and your clients have as well. Is it true, hey, you should wake up 4 or 5 a.m., inject it, and go back to sleep, and then eat breakfast when you wake up, and then take it early afternoon? When is the best time to take it?
Well, first of all, the best source of GH is real GH. Okay, so anything coming from a pharmacy is good. They're all the same. GH is growth hormone is growth hormone. I mean, if it's legitimate GH, 1 IU is 1 IU. It doesn't matter what company makes it, or doesn't make it, for that matter. When's the best time to take it? Well, the great thing about GH is that we're not trying to stimulate it. I think people get confused. The initial idea was, well, when is growth hormone naturally released in the body? Well, after working out, it's naturally released. While you're sleeping, it's naturally released, and it's not released in the morning. Okay, the morning is when you produce all your catabolic hormones like cortisol. So when taking GH, you don't want to take it when your body normally releases it, because you're not trying to stimulate its release. You're actually taking the hormone itself. You don't have to worry about what the right conditions are around, because you're actually injecting the stuff. You're not injecting a precursor to it.
Okay.
So I always say I think I was the first person to really say, take the GH in the morning, because that's when your body doesn't produce it and when you're the most catabolic. So take an anabolic hormone to counteract all that catabolism that's going on. That's when you want to really, capitalize on it. So I would tell people, get up, take your shot, and eat your breakfast. It doesn't matter if there's food or no food in your system, because you're taking growth hormone. You're not trying to.
So you don't have to wait like 1 hour. Or something.
No. People are ridiculous with that. But that goes back to the fact that people just don't understand the science of what's going on. They're confused by the aspect of stimulating GH production in the body as opposed to actually injecting GH.
And should you take it again a second time during the day?
The only time I have people take 2 shots a day is if they're taking more than 4 IUs a day, which I don't really recommend people do. But if you're taking 5 or 6 IUs a day, you probably should split it up into 2 shots.
Okay, that's good advice. And then I want to pick your brain too on trenbolone, because for me, my personal experience with tren is different than most people. When I take tren, and I've talked to some IFBB pros about this who have similar experiences, or their clients have as well. When I take tren, I blow up. I mean, my weight shoots up, my strength goes up, I get big on it. I don't get ripped. But then you have other guys, I know we had Boston Lloyd on the show, he takes a shitload of it, and he says he rips up on it no matter what he eats. Now, I eat like a perfect diet, and I still blow up on it. I'll gain like 10 pounds when I take it. Do you think that has something to do with maybe my insulin? I'm maybe insulin resistant, so I'm taking something extremely anabolic, and my body wants to store.
I think that people get confused, and I always make this statement a lot of times on my Ask Dave TV show that I do every Wednesday. Steroids don't burn fat. They build muscle. Okay? They build and repair muscle. Whether you're taking Trenbolone, Primobolan, Anavar, testosterone, they build and repair muscle. Some of the steroids, which are usually the strong ones, also have other side effects, water retention with them, high estrogen conversion, et cetera, et cetera. But they all do the same thing. Now, if you have a lean physique to begin with, and you take steroids that don't make you retain fluid very, very readily, you tend to look leaner, but you're not. Okay. Now, granted, if you're adding more muscle to your body, you're probably increasing your metabolic rate a little bit. So you could burn a little bit of fat from steroids, but the steroids themselves are not fat burners. Winstrol doesn't make you hard. Okay. Dieting makes you hard. If you are hard from dieting and you take Winstrol, you'll look harder. Okay. Because that's it. But the Winstrol itself is not making you hard. Okay. And that's where people make mistakes. So you might not be that lean by nature, and you take Trenbolone and you get bigger, because that's what steroids do. They make you bigger, And people who have super fast metabolisms, like myself and Boston Lloyd have very fast metabolism, we take a drug like Trenbolone, and it amps up our metabolic rate a little bit. So we have to eat more, and if we don't, we tend to get we get veiny, and because we're lean by nature, you just see that the hardness of that lean muscle show more. So people think, oh, look, it made me more ripped. No, it didn't make you more ripped. It's just enhancing the ripped appearance. I always say, take a person who's contest ready on a ton of steroids, and keep them eating the same diet. So they stay just as lean, but take them off the steroids and they'll deflate like a balloon. Same food, same level of body fat, completely different look. Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's good advice. Yeah, for sure. And then what do you think about Primo? A lot of people hate on Primo these days.
Well, it's because it's all fake. That's why.
Okay.
I sell a product on DavePalumbo.com website called Roid Test. It was developed by Bill Llewellyn, and I sell a ton of these. And you can actually test your anabolics to see what's in there. Primobolan is the most fake steroid because it's a very expensive steroid. And most of the time, the fake Primobolan is test propionate, which is a problem if you're a woman trying to use Primobolan and you think you're on Primobolan and you're actually taking testosterone propionate because you're going to get major side effects. So a lot of people take the Primobolan and they're like, wow, it doesn't really make me hard, but I get really big on it. Yeah, because you're taking testosterone, So, and if you're paying Primobolan prices for testosterone, you're way overpaying.
Yeah. I've spent $1,000 on Primo, Bare Primo, and it was fake. So it was basically they copied the labels and everything, made it look legit. I was so pissed. Yeah, it was like a waste. So, but legit Primo, what do you think about legit Primo? Is that
I like it.
One of your favorite ones? Okay.
I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but I did like it. I liked the way Primobolan made me look and feel. It's got virtually no side effects for a man, at least. It doesn't make you hold any water. You get pretty hard on it. You grow on it. If you're not, I was a beginner user when I first started taking it, so I got really good results from it. But I always liked it. I only used 100 milligrams 2-3 times a week of the stuff, and I thought it worked tremendously. But you're not going to get massive size from it. It's a good pre-contest drug, to use. Or you can use it off season, but if you combine it with testosterone and some other things. But it's kind of similar to Winstrol in effect. It's just longer acting.
What about EQ? What's your what do you like? Did you like EQ?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite. I think pre-contest and off season. I just think combined with testosterone, there's nothing better than that because it makes you super hungry and you can just grow and eat like crazy on the stuff.
I'm gonna say one more thing, just building on what Dave said about steroids not being fat burners. Part of the reason and part of where all this misinformation comes from is they'll read some PubMed study that shows older men with low testosterone, when they were given, a testosterone replacement dosage, their body fat went down. There is a huge difference between fixing a hormone imbalance and, a healthy guy with normal testosterone levels, using exogenous testosterone. So, if you have a hormone imbalance, fixing that hormone imbalance may lead to decreases in body fat. It'd kind of be like a guy with super high estrogen levels. If he started taking, an aromatase inhibitor, he'd probably lose body fat. But, just the average person, if they have normal estrogen levels and they take an aromatase inhibitor, they're not going to lose body fat. It's not going to do anything for them. If anything, it's going to probably be counterproductive because some estrogen is needed to synthesize the androgen receptor.
Sensitize the androgen receptor.
Sorry. So Dave, we're pretty much at our hour here. What's new with you? What do you got new for RX Muscle coming up? What do you got new with Species? What's in the R&D department?
We have a new amino acid product coming out, essential amino acid product that's very high in branch chains called Amino Evolved. That's from my speciesnutrition.com line. And Amino Evolved is great because it's got all fermented amino acids in it, which are amino acids derived from bacteria, not from human hair that they've collected in the Chinese barbershops, which is a much better source
bird
of
feathers.
amino acids. Well, what most people don't realize, most of the amino acids they're using, that's where they come from. You talk about not wanting to eat cricket protein. I wouldn't want to eat human hair protein. So I think we have a really, really solid product that's going to hit the shelves probably by early next month. And we have, I know Testalize has been out of stock for a couple months now, and I almost went down and murdered my manufacturer because they're killing me because it sells really, really well. A lot of people, men and women, use it to control estrogen, DHT, to raise testosterone, and it's great when you're off cycle, and a lot of the natural bodybuilders use it. So that'll be back in stock also hopefully by next month sometime. And then, I always got stuff that I'm working on in my mind. I have a product called Neuralize, which is a mental focus pill I'm trying to develop now. But if it's not going to be what I want it to be, I won't release it. It's got to be something really special. As far as RX Muscle goes, we've been doing some killer interviews lately. I don't know if any of you guys caught the Lee Priest one. We had Jean-Pierre Fuchs. I have a couple.
They're great. They're great.
The John
Kevin
Pierre Fuchs
Maroney,
one was
we've been
hilarious.
just doing some-
He made the same mistake 30 shows in a row.
So we, we're always trying to recreate ourselves over there and come up with new and better content. I have my whole trip to Italy. All those videos will be coming out very shortly. And of course, before we know it, the Olympia will be here. So we got a lot of good stuff going on. I think that, I hate that. I don't like to brag about what we do because I don't think I'm any more special than anyone else out there. But I think that RX Muscle is really doing the most as far as original TV programming and creative content out there, not just stealing from other people. I think we're creating new stuff and we're creating dialogue, we're creating debate, and I think that's what makes the industry interesting. If everyone agrees, then it's kind of boring in my mind.
Last question for you, Dave, then I'll let you go. Who do you got picked for the Olympia this year?
I don't think anyone beats Phil Heath.
Yeah, I don't either. There you go. You heard it here first from Dave. June 15th. So, 3 months from now, we'll see if his prediction's correct.
I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I hope I'm wrong. I would love to see someone take him out, but I don't see anyone. I think it's going to be close between him and Dexter, but I think they're going to give it to Phil.
I agree.
That's what I think. I think that'll be 1 and 2. Anyways, Dave, have a great rest of your day. Thanks again for coming on. For your host, Trevor Kouritzin, and for my co-host, Steve Smee, and for our special guest, Dave Palumbo, this has been another episode of Evolutionary Radio. Live your life. Look good doing it.
Thank you.